All right. Well, hello, everyone. I'm here sharing your retirement coach Diva, and again, we have an excited episode of the Royal Nugget. And tonight's guest is no stranger to me. She is a family member of mine, and I'm so excited about all that she plans on telling us that I've been promoting out there about medication and how it affects our skin and hair. And just before we came live, we were just talking. I was like, we might have a second episode about how the other chemicals that we put in our hair, on our skin and everything, how that affects us as well. But tonight we're going to try to stay on focus. So I have with me Mrs. Stephanie Mosley, who, when she told me about all her background, I was like, I don't think I can properly explain her history and background. So we're going to start off with making sure that everyone knows that we are here to engage with you and answer any questions that you might have. This is not just a conversation between Stephanie and I. It is a conversation with everybody online. So make sure that you are liking and sharing this information with others as we are live. Chat, drop your questions in the chat so we can answer those questions. But I'm going to turn it over now to Stephanie to introduce herself. So, Stephanie, please tell our viewers about yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Stephanie Mosley, and I have many backgrounds, basically. But my favorite was I was a chemist for about 20 years, and I was a hair care and skincare chemist. I invented products that we put on our hair and scalp and skin. And I worked in several companies, M&M Products Company, Procter& and Gamble, Andrew Jergens. For the older people out there, if you've ever heard of a shampoo called Gee, Your Hair Smells Terrific, that was my invention.
I do remember that. That must say I'm old.
That was Andrew Jergens. And so, but my favorite job was with a dermatologist, Dr. Wesley Wilburn, with Essence of Quality. And he was a dermatologist, and he really gave me the background that I needed on what products actually do what they say they're supposed to do, what raw materials. And so basically I became a raw material specialist so that I could create better products, for especially people of color, especially African Americans, because our hair type is different. Everybody has different hair types. And so the main thing that I wanted to focus on was for people to understand that your scalp is an extension of your skin, and your scalp needs to be moisturized. It needs to be cleaned. It needs to have scalp care, just like your skin does, just like your body does. And the hair and scalp have very important roles to play in our health and development. Your hair has several parts and several purposes. You have hair follicles, and you have hair bulbs and dermal papilla, and you have sebaceous glands. Now, I'm going to show you this. This is what your skin looks like. Okay. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this okay?
Yep, can see
Okay,
it.
so this is the different layers of your skin. And so looking at the layers of the skin, the one thing you need to pay attention to is the fact that all of your skin has follicles of hair. And so the purpose of your hair basically is that it provides protection from sun and from dust. It's a sensory input for your body, and it plays a role in your appearance and your identity as well. And then you have the scalp. When you deal with the scalp, you have it's called the epidermis, a dermis, a sebaceous glands, just like in your skin. You have sweat glands. You have blood vessels, you have nerve endings, and all of these are a part of your hair structure. And so just like the nerve endings in your body and the veins that run up and down your body, things affect them. And so when we take a look at what affects your body, it's also affecting your hair and scalp. There are several reasons why hair stops growing or slows down growing or even thins and sheds. One of the reasons is biological. Biological could be genetics. Your family could have a history of alopecia. Your grandmother had it, your mother had it, your father had it, whatever. So now you have it. So it's biological. Also, aging. The older we get, the slower that your hair grows, and also the thinner the strands of hair become. You have hormonal imbalances, especially in men. They have this thing called DHT, dihydrotestosterone. The more testosterone they produce, the thinner their hair gets, and it leads
Really?
to, oh Lord, yes. And so, yeah, it minimizes the hair follicles. Yeah,
Okay.
we think about thyroid disorder. That's hormonal. So if you have a thyroid disorder, it can disrupt the hair growth. When we menopause and after you have a baby, postpartum hormonal shifts take place. And these things, your estrogen drops basically. And when your estrogen drops, your hair starts thinning. Not too much you can do about it at that time, but menopause don't last forever, and neither does postpartum depression. I mean, not depression, postpartum hormonal shifts. Other conditions could be external factors. This is a whole segment by itself, but I'm gonna hit it for you real quick. Chemical damage. The lye that we put in our hair, the potassium. Well, let me say, relaxers. You have the no lye, where the no lye is potassium. That's still a chemical that damages your hair. And so relaxers, dyes, bleaching agents, they destroy the follicle over a period of time. Another thing is heat and traction. Excessive heat styling or tight hairstyles like braids and weaves, they can cause traction alopecia, which leads, scales and things like that on your skin, on your scalp. What it's actually doing is damaging, the glands and the nerves that are attached to your scalp. And then poor scalp health, clogged follicles or poor circulation can reduce your hair growth. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you're not washing your hair. You're not getting that dandruff out of your skin, off of your scalp. You're not massaging your scalp. You're not moisturizing your hair. And so that the oils that your sebaceous gland produces, can work with the moisturizer and help to generate healthy hair instead of thin hair. And then you have a growth cycle. A lot of people don't know that. You have a growth phase, a transition phase, and then you have a phase in your hair where it's resting and shedding. A lot of people that have locks, some people call them dreadlocks. I don't like to call them dreads. I like to call them locks. But people that have locks, they are not really putting a lot of tension and pressure and things on their hair. And so it's really dead and shedding hair, but it's not going anywhere because they're not combing it out. They're not brushing it out. And so it's just steadily growing. And so most of locks are really actually dead hair, but it looks fabulous. And so great style.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, all of my grandchildren
Yes.
and my sons,
Yes.
and my daughter-in-law, they have locks and they look great.
Mhm.
So if your growth cycle is disrupted for any reason, stress, illness, medication, it can actually lead to more shedding of the hair. But the main reason that I want to talk about why we experience hair growth stoppage or slowing down is because of medical conditions and medical treatments. Um, People with autoimmune disease, it attacks the hair follicle at its root.
Mhm.
People that have nutritional deficiencies, they lack iron and zinc, biotin and protein. These are things that you normally would produce in your body. Or vitamin D, a lack of vitamin D can disrupt your growth. Medications, when you're dealing with chemotherapy, antidepressants, blood thinners, birth control, can absolutely stop the growth of hair. And then your scalp conditions, psoriasis, dermatitis, fungal infections. And if you think your hair and scalp can't get a fungal infection like your fingernails. Your fingernails grow and shed just like your hair does.
Stephanie, I'm gonna tell you something and tell our audience something as well. Let me see how long ago this. Maybe it's been like 17 years ago. I got an infection on my scalp. It started off like really small, like just like a dry patch. And within 2 months, it spread and my hair was coming out. I started going to, I went to my doctor. They didn't know. I went to a dermatologist. That the dermatologist didn't know. Then they sent me to this other. It's a famous. I can't remember his name, but he's a pretty famous dermatologist in the DC area. And then he started doing these treatments on my hair. He had like his own shampoo. That didn't work. And see, and I have an autoimmune disease. So for me, I told him at the beginning, I have this condition. So they didn't listen. And so he one time sprayed nitrogen on my scalp to try to get it off.
Oh my God.
So finally, after several visits, he did a biopsy. He pulled
the skin
hair out real hard.
Right. Yep.
Sent it off. And as soon as he got the results back, he called me in and was like, okay, come and take this medicine. And that medicine did clear it up. But, there's one thing that I learned by being sick and, still steady on maintenance medication is that you have to advocate for yourself and tell your doctors and people, hey, this is what's going on with me. You can't just generalize and put everybody in the same category. If he had listened to me in the beginning, then I wouldn't have spent so much money on those treatments. But by the time it finished, I had patches of hair gone.
Right.
And I ended up having to cut all my hair off really short. And I liked it. So I wore it like that for about a year. But still, when I was going through that process, it was painful because the fungus, it was during summertime, so it was hot and heat.
And it probably itched.
It would itch if you I would say if you blew on it, my hair would hurt. Like I couldn't really comb it. My daughters were helping me trying to style it, but then I had to go to work, so I would wear like a scarf or something on it. And I thought I had alopecia. I thought my hair was not going to grow back. But I'm just saying this because it could happen to any one of us. And so you have to advocate because one thing that's going on with your body can affect something else that will affect everything else. Yes.
And so us being women and men being in contact with ourselves, knowing what's going on, knowing if we have some type of condition, it affects everything. And so we have to, when we go in to see these doctors and dermatologists, make sure you go to a dermatologist that knows about black skin and hair, because everybody's skin and hair is not the same. As I was telling Sharon before we went live, the difference in different nationalities or even different hair colors. Natural ginger's hair is really hard, rough, and very, very coarse. And then you have people that are like Japanese, their hair is just has so much oil, it's a problem for them because it just drips if there's sweat and things like that. And that's why their hair is so straight. But people of color, most of us have some type of S pattern, and sometimes the S pattern is loose and sometimes the S pattern is very tight. And that makes a difference in the treatment that you get, or from a dermatologist for your skin and for your scalp. Medications that have negative effects, these drugs can basically disrupt natural hair growth. It can stifle the growth cycle, basically, and you can automatically experience sudden hair loss. Like I'm saying, shedding, like you get up off your pillow.
Right.
And, and so when we're dealing with the chemotherapy drugs, when you're dealing with blood thinners, antidepressants, beta blockers, vitamin A derivatives, Yeah. When you're dealing with thyroid medication and birth control pills and birth control replacement therapy, because
Mm.
some people that are having a problem having babies,
Oh, okay.
oh yeah, when you take those, it's going to lead to some type of chemical change in you, which is
Mm.
going to affect your nerves, which is in your hair, skin, and scalp. It's going
Right.
to affect the blood vessels. It's going to affect the ability for the sebaceous gland to secrete the oil that you need for healthy hair and for your follicles to grow, to break through that skin. Okay.
Right.
It could be under the skin. And that's another problem. Your hair can be growing under the skin, but
Mm.
because your skin hasn't been cleaned, your scalp hasn't been cleaned,
Right.
it's clogged up. So now you got follicles turning back down into your skin,
Oh,
into your
wow.
scalp. So that's when you get them little red bumps. You ever had little
Oh,
bumps? Oh yeah, that's when you get those.
okay. Okay.
When
So
you get those.
you're giving a lot of information right now, and I have questions based on some of the things that you shared. So you mentioned about like iron deficiency and lack of vitamin D.
Mhm.
What I've learned over the years is that people don't get out as much. A lot
Mhm.
of women um, are deficient in iron.
Uh-huh.
So those are things that seems like they're chronic for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so what is something that someone who might be lacking in vitamin D or iron, like what are some things that they can do to help, because they may not even realize that they're having problem with their skin or hair because it's just been going on so long. They're just like, well, this is just something, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, it's normally something. If it's not biological, if it's not generational and things like that, if your parents and grandparents and those have not experienced it, nine
Mhm.
times out of 10, you didn't inherit it. And so 9 times out of 10 is other things. If you are iron deficient long before your hair, tells you that you need iron, your
Right.
body should.
Right.
There's a part of you that would probably be fatigued or tired, and a lot of people don't think that they need iron supplements, or a lot of people are allergic to iron supplements. Like if
Mhm.
y'all remember Geritol, that's what I was on as a kid. As a kid, that's what I was on. But nowadays they have slow release iron, that you can take every other day. I am not a pill addict. I am not a person that takes, a lot of anything, but I do take my vitamins. And yes, I
Mhm.
do take biotin, and I do take, proteins, and I do take slow release iron
Right.
every other day because my system is slow with absorbing medications. And
Okay.
another thing I wanted to talk about is taking any kind of medication. If you take medications, I don't care if it's a bare aspirin, if you taking medications, antidepressant, thyroid, and you're not active, that medication is taking its time about going through your system. You got
Mm.
to walk or move or something to help disperse this
Okay.
medication. And number two, it will help the medication to start working more effectively and in a shorter period of time. And number three, it won't have that damaging effect by just sitting there, and stopping your hair growth. It won't concentrate in one area and clog, in that area. Some
Okay.
people, some people can't move. I understand that.
Hmm.
People that are on that have cancer and things like that, at some point in time, they're so fatigued, they really can't move. But people that are taking high blood pressure every day, medicine every day,
Hmm.
or a diuretic, what do you call it?
Yeah.
Like Lasix or
Yes.
furosemide to
Yes.
help
I
you. Yeah,
know just about those.
there
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
those people that are taking that and just taking the pills and sitting around, the
Hmm.
pill is not dissolving and getting through your system to do
Mm.
what it's supposed to be doing. It
Okay.
is sitting. Okay. And all of this has a lasting effect on your hair. Um,
Well, Stephanie, you mentioned about biotin, and I had looked at trying to take that, and I guess maybe I didn't take it long enough or really know what I'm looking at, but I didn't see a change in like my hair or
okay.
skin
So
and things like that.
when we decide to take something to produce the results we want to see it the next day.
Right, right.
Think about the layers in your skin that this stuff has to go through. Let's take a look at the skin again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you see it? Am I seeing it?
Yes, yes.
When you take a look at these layers,
Uh-huh.
this is what your medicine or has to travel through.
Mm,
Biotin can only be taken if you take putting it on top of your head. Forget it. It's just like taking vitamin E. It don't work on top of your skin. You got to take it orally.
okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So when you buy these products, say it's just got biotin, it's got vitamin E.
Right.
It lotion can't do it for you. You got to take it internally because
Okay.
number one, there is no lotion that is going to absorb and penetrate all of those skin layers. Not one.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
things that you really want to work have to work from the inside out.
Okay.
That's why when you take stuff like biotin and stuff like vitamin E and pectin, and there's some other things. I'll get to that in a minute. My brain
Mm-hmm.
is moving faster than my mouth right now. But that's why when you take things like that, you got to be aware that they're just trying to sell a product. They need
Okay.
to, yeah. When you things like they'll tell you has aloe vera in it. Aloe vera works on the skin, not
Right.
internal.
Okay. And,
So you got to be aware of that.
right. And then in addition to that, like I was mentioning about before about advocating for yourself, when they say talk to your doctor before taking medication, because if you're on a medication,
You
then
want to see if it has a
it might
negative
take
impact.
some effect. Right. And so, you know what I did, and I'm not advocating for people to do this. I do say talk to your doctor, but what I did was I had bought some things from the health food place because I was like, yeah, I got this going on, and they gave me all this stuff, spent all this money. Then I got home, I said, wait a minute, I have let me chat GPT. Tell
Jack,
me, yeah. It's like it's the new WebMD. It's the new WebMD. Yes. So I went in and I put in this is my medical issues. These are the medications I'm taking. Tell me if this, good or bad or whatever the effects. And it was like some of them they were like, I don't take. Yeah, and then some of it was like because it will do this, that, and the other. Now I
mhm,
know I still need to talk to my doctor because when my doctor, every time I go to the doctor, they say, okay, what are you taking? And I tell them, what I'm taking. But that helped me because I didn't want to, the chat GPT helped me because I didn't want to take something and it was going to counteract what I'm already taking that is for my health.
right.
So again, I'm not advocating chat GPT as your doctor. Like I don't advocate WebMD for you to go to instead of going to the doctor. But in the moment, I thought it was like a quick, something to help me to find out about
Sharon,
those.
it makes plenty of sense because at least you want to have a feel, for
Mhm.
what it is. Because I'm not downing doctors, but being a health care provider, I mean a care provider for my mother, and
Yeah.
with the different medications she's had to be on, different doctors, different issues, you
Hmm.
know, I needed a way to know if what you're prescribing, and you'll tell them what medications they're on, and it's like they either don't know or they don't have time to
Right.
research or whatever.
Right.
My savings grace is that my youngest sister works in the medical field, and
Okay.
she is my chat
Yeah.
GPT.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
I'll call her and say, well, they're taking her off of furosemide and they're putting her on Jardison. And she says, wait a minute, let me take a look. Or they wanted to take her off of, they took her off of Eliquis, but they still had the vitamin, what is it, vitamin A or something. But
Hmm.
also that was promoting the same thing the Eliquis was. And so
Okay.
she's the one that told me, but I advocate for people to look whatever resources you have available, because
Hmm.
doctors just do not have the time. And
Hmm.
especially if you have 3 and 4 doctors, you have to have a real good old doctor,
Right.
one of those that have great bedside manner, that have
Right.
known you for 68 years,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that would, you know, and my mother does have that kind of doctor, and I'm
Okay.
happy about that. But you have to advocate for yourself. If you don't look out for yourself, you can't trust and believe. Hey, for well, I'm not going to get into that. I was getting ready to say for those who have some type of religion, you can't just trust anybody else to tell you, what's going on. You got to read for yourself.
Right,
Okay.
right, right.
The same thing with your health and with your life. You know what's going on with you. Keep a journal. If something doesn't feel right, do
Mhm.
not ignore it. And the
Right,
older you get, definitely do
right.
not ignore it.
So going back to what I was saying about when I was taking the biotin, and like you said, I'm looking for immediate results. Like,
Mhm.
how long should you take these type of
It could take
supplements or
it could
something?
it to for it to start working, you probably won't even see it. Your nerves and vessels and follicles and sebaceous gland and those the parts, the layers of your skins will start seeing a result before you start seeing a physical result. But
Oh,
the
okay.
bottom line is that they do work.
Hmm.
We always expect to see 24 hours, but I would say a good 3 to 4 weeks,
Mm. Okay.
of using it according to the directions.
Hmm.
Okay. And 3 to 4 weeks, and then you might start noticing a glow on your skin, or,
Hmm.
baby hair. You might get some baby hair.
And
But
as a senior citizen, we get baby hair.
yeah, and your hair may actually, with scalp and hair health treatments,
Hmm.
your hair may actually work better with product that wasn't working before. Like some
Right.
people's hair, if they have natural hair, some people like water-based gels or something like that. And
Hmm.
then if their hair has been damaged, then after a while, it's not going to like the water-based gel. It's going to prefer the cream, or something like that.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but for those people who are under medication and who are experiencing, slowing hair growth, shedding of the hair, or hair loss, all is not lost. Even if it's chemotherapy, all is
Mhm.
not lost. You have something at your disposal that works all the time, and it's called stimulation. You
Mhm.
got to massage your own scalp. Doesn't it feel real good when you go to the hairdressers?
Oh
Do they
yeah,
still call it
yeah,
hairdressers? Okay.
yeah, yeah. We know what
Okay.
you're talking about.
Okay. So it feels really good because they're stimulating. Now, two things are taking place when they're massaging your scalp. They're loosening up all of that stuff,
Mhm.
that you put on your skin, but also it is stimulating your muscles. It is stimulating the sensory that hair has provided in your skin. And it's almost like you feel like you're being healed. You can almost go to sleep. It's
Mhm.
a purpose to massaging. It heats up that scalp. Number one. Number two, it starts removing the stuff that's still it trapped on your scalp. Because people can shampoo your hair and not get everything. You know how they just
Right.
run through. They've got to massage that scalp because some people that I had gone to, I don't know if they were just rolling my hair around or what they were doing, but they weren't getting that scalp. I said, "Excuse me," and I had to get in there and get the
Uh,
scalp. I But I wanted you to know that there's several things you can do. You massage your hair yourself. If you're real concerned, you see um, bumps, you see smoothness on your skin, on your
mhm.
scalp, or things
Mhm.
like that. Go talk to a doctor or go talk to a dermatologist. See if there's some type of medication you can take for it. But also exercise. For those of us that can exercise, if you can walk, if you can, you don't have to go to the gym. You can do those chair yoga things. They really work because they, increase your cardio. So you can improve your blood circulation with cardio exercises. It reduces stress by producing that happy feeling called cortisol.
Mhm.
So exercise helps promote growth of everything. It balances your hormones. You don't have to be taking all of this hormone, estrogen, this and that and the other.
Right.
Exercise will help. I'm not saying it will do it for everybody because
Mhm.
everybody cannot exercise. You
Right.
know, it boosts your metabolism. And when it boosts your metabolisms, it starts pushing stuff out of your pores.
Mhm.
It detoxifies your
Right.
skin and your skin. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it supports better sleep. There's nothing healthier for your skin and body than a good night's sleep. And if you're
Mhm.
not sleeping well, you're not healing well.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line to that. Also, peppermint. I have a son named Sinq. It's actually Sharon's son-in-law.
Yeah.
And so son-in-law, yeah. But
Yes.
he taught me about peppermint, lavender, and this and that and the other.
Yeah.
But peppermint actually promotes healing and growth. It's the, I guess it's the fragrance or whatever, the chemistry behind peppermint. It actually stimulates. You don't have to do the massage. You can put some on your scalp.
Right. So like when I get my hair done, then they will spray it sometime. It loosens up the dirt
That's right.
that's built up.
That's
Also,
right.
if you when you go to the hairstylist or the hairdresser, then they will say if you have itching, they'll put that peppermint
Uh-huh.
shampoo in there to help with the itching that you might
Right.
have. So I do have questions. Like sometimes, we take for granted things that we use, like ibuprofen, aspirin, things
Don't
like
take it for
that.
granted.
We just take them if we have pain.
Mm-mm.
How do they affect our skin and our hair?
Okay, when you're dealing with ibuprofen, that's an anti-inflammatory,
Hmm.
and so it doesn't just work on the part that's inflamed. It actually works on other parts of your body, whether you need it to or not. It is there. But when it comes to ibuprofen has um, a negative effect on the lining of your stomach if you take it in excess, but it also has a negative effect on the lining of your body, of your the lining of your throat. And
Hmm.
if it deals with your throat and inside, if it's flowing through your veins and your blood vessels and your nerves, it's getting to your scalp. And
Hmm.
so what we have to do is we have to be mindful. Exercise also relieves arthritis pains. I'm
Hmm.
not talking about other pains, but I
Right.
know I have arthritis in my knees, and
Hmm.
I was taking pills. I was trying to get to sleep and trying to feel better. And I started stretching at night and stretching in the morning. And
Hmm.
guess what? I'm not in pain. Every now and then, this knee. I'm 68 years old, so this knee does its own thing, but not enough for me to take medication for.
Okay.
And so I admit I need to exercise a lot more,
Hmm.
but since I started practicing, healthy skin and scalp. And when I say healthy, doing exactly what I've been telling you all about, the product that I put on my skin, the massaging, taking care of it. Nothing's too tight, you
Hmm.
know. I have noticed my hair is growing like weeds, and every time I go to the lady, that has been helping me with my hair, she says you just have too much hair on your head. I can't do nothing with it because I hate washing hair.
Right. Me
It's
too.
just too much hair, so I
Me
keep it
too.
up. But I keep it up in these little things. But this hair is this hair is long,
Hmm.
and it's healthy, and it's
Yeah.
not breaking, and it's going to shed because that's normal and that's natural. Other oils that you can use: rosemary.
Hmm.
Rosemary has the chemical products, not necessarily chemical, but natural products in it that also does several things. It puts a little heat on your scalp too, which is a
Okay.
form of stimulation.
Hmm.
Also, rosemary takes out any types of, I won't say, I will say, it takes out dead skin or skin that's not healthy. It smooths it away, but you have to work with it. And castor oil. I
Mm.
know a lot of people,
About that.
castor oil is a go-to. But castor oil, the only thing about castor oil is that if you use too much of it, it has that clogging effect,
Okay.
for the sebaceous glands. But the
Mhm.
castor oil itself, it actually lubricates the follicles. It actually lubricates the scalp, and it helps to move debris. Because
Okay.
it never stops moving. Castor oil doesn't. It's always doing something, and so always moving around. So that's the chemistry of castor
You
oil.
know, and it kind of reminds me of when back in the day when you go to the beauty supply store, and they were all, we would put hair grease on our hair all the time. You got the blue magic, it was green, white, and blue.
And what
Lathering our hair.
I can't remember. My mother used to put something on her hair, but she used to press with it. I can't remember
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I remember they had that in the
and it
jar
was
to
straight
press it.
grease. It was straight
Yeah. And then you
petroleum
also
oil
had that
jelly.
sulfur 8 and all this stuff. But what you are really saying is going back to more natural things than this processed stuff that, like, like you said, I have locks. So I was looking in the store for the, the oil or whatever. But really, I could just go and get the natural oil.
Oh, yeah.
And use that on my hair. And I'm assuming because I'm using on my scalp, like you said, my scalp is skin, it's an extension of skin, that I can use it on other body parts as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've never seen a negative effect. Now, anything in excess is not good.
Right.
Okay, just saying it like that. And not having good maintenance of the body, not cleaning yourself and stuff and cleaning your hair. You gotta know it's a package. You can't just wash your feet and face.
Right.
Okay. You
right.
gotta clean. Yeah, you gotta stay.
Yes. Yes. And I think, like we mentioned about the supplements, like talk to your doctor. Even with using these oils, you want to make sure that you don't have any type of allergies or negative effect. So don't go use, like you said, you don't want to use anything in excess, but also you might want to start off small and using just a little amount or just in one certain area to see how that would affect you before you actually start to use it, and talk to your doctor about it. And I remember people, like you mentioned castor oil. I didn't think of it about it on your hair. I remember people would take it, orally.
Oh, yeah,
and
my mother used to shove it down my throat for everything. Shoot.
So what else should we be aware of? Like, because I'm just thinking mostly, it's so many different medications. You named a lot that, people have certain ailments and then certain medications that they take. Like, what else should we be aware of?
You should be aware of being over medicated by your doctors. I'm not talking against doctors, but the pharmacies are trying to make as much money as they big pharmaceutical,
right.
And so even if what you have can be treated through rest, they're going to prescribe something for you. So as you stated earlier, Sharon, you've got to be an advocate for yourself, because people are out there to make money.
Right.
Doctors are being held to a tighter rein because they want them to help get the pharmacies making more money, the pharmaceutical companies to make more money. And so something that might be minor, that they might prescribe all this stuff for, you may not need. That's when ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever AI whatever.
Yes.
But what we need is doctors that we trust, that have great bedside manner, that don't just run in with a clipboard, take a look at you and say, you need this, this, and this. And we say, okay, because 9 times out of 10, it ain't going to work. And I mean, ain't, it's not going to work. And because they haven't researched you, they don't know what's going on with you enough to actually prescribe that. Now, if you have a lesion or something on your body, okay, that's something different. But when you go in and you start talking about, I've been having these headaches, and they say, oh, we're going to give you some ibuprofen, 100. Or something. These are the things you need a healthcare provider that cares. We've got to remember that they're called practitioners, because they are practicing on us. And so nobody knows you like you. And you've got to be very aware of you. When you go to a doctor, you should be able to tell them this, and this. so that he can get a picture of what's going on. You should be able to tell him the medications you've been on, how long this has been taking place,
Mhm.
changes in skin, changes in diet, changes in bowel movement.
Right.
You should be able to tell them you
Yeah.
and ask them now, what am I looking at here? And he should be saying, let me look into it. If he
Hmm.
comes up and says, oh, you need sundowners medication. I mean, I'm just saying, if they come up and say something off the top, no, they have to
Hmm.
research because doctors actually do not know everything, and we should not expect them to know everything. They
Right.
have to research. They got it called Chat GPT too.
They do. They should. They should because it pulls all the information into one place. Now, Chat GPT does have
It's
a
not
disclaimer.
a
They say they are wrong sometimes, but you at least doing some due diligence.
yeah, yeah.
And I will say, like, I went to the health food place really just to get one thing, and then I started telling them, I got this, I got that, and immediately the lady was like, "Oh, that's toxin in your body. You need to take this. You need to take that." So I took one of the things that she told me, and the next day I had this headache that was just like this little nagging headache all day. And I said, "Oh, I'm not taking that." And that
I
was one of the things that ChatGPT told me it would counteract my medication. But
mhm,
if I hadn't had that headache, I probably would have still been taking it. But when
mhm.
I said, "Oh, this is annoying. I'm not going to take this."
And
So
a lot of people will get a headache, and immediately they're just going to take some type of medication for it. They don't
mhm,
even anticipate. I mean, they don't even realize that a headache is your body's way of saying something wrong, something's
mhm,
out of whack.
mhm,
Now, if
mhm.
you have sinus infection, then that headache is going to be there, and you already know what it is.
Right.
But in all actuality, unless somebody or your job or family has just gotten on your last nerve where you can't take it anymore, a headache out of the blue means
Mhm,
your body's way of trying to tell you, warning,
mhm.
pay attention to this. It's not nothing immediately for you to run to a doctor about, but it is telling you to pay attention to what new did you introduce into your body or on your skin and scalp.
Mhm.
What new medications or what new environment, or just pay attention. See if something in your system, if your urine is a different color than it had been.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
saying
Right.
these things mean something. And
Mhm.
a lot of times young people just take a whole lot of stuff for granted, as I did when I was young,
Right.
you
Right.
know. But the older you get, everything means something.
Right. So
Yeah.
basically, when we are being prescribed any type of medication or taking any type of supplement, because we are always seeing advertisements for this, that, and the other,
Everything.
it's doing your due diligence, talking with your doctor, to see like if this is something real for you. And you have to sometimes, like you mentioned, educate your doctor on you
On
because
you.
you are we all are unique individuals.
Absolutely.
And what worked for you, Stephanie, may not work for me.
Right.
And you have to educate them, especially as if you have multiple doctors that you go into, sometimes they don't talk to each
They
other
don't talk to each
and
other.
they don't have the same systems. I'm just talking from my own experience. They can't
Mm.
look in the system and say, "Oh, this is what's going on." I keep a notebook
That's
and I've
right.
been doing that for years. When I go to the doctor, and I'm not afraid to ask questions. I don't just go by what they say. I say, "Well, this is what they said," and this. I write down my weight, my my blood pressure. I
Yeah.
write it all down because they're
Because
like,
everything matters.
"Yes, yes,
Everything matters.
yes."
Using my mother as an example, I was getting concerned because it seemed like she was gaining weight,
Mhm.
and so I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I mean, she's 93. It's good that she's healthy, but her clothes, I was like, wait. And so when I took her to the doctor, he did and she's been with him for about 500 years, and so he knows her. And
Right.
so when I told him, it just seems like she's gaining this weight. but what it was, she was losing body fat and gaining muscle. That's a good thing with a
Oh,
93-year
okay.
old, And so where her weight was actually, she had actually lost 8 pounds,
Oh.
in her weight, but she had more muscle
Mhm.
than she had fat, and so she's just extremely healthy in
Oh,
body. But if a doctor doesn't know if a doctor takes a look at your family history, because they always ask you, did anybody have cancer? Did anybody have this? Did anybody have
right.
that? And when you go to a doctor, a lot of times they're looking at your family history, and you go in there and you say you have a pain in your breast, automatically, oh, well, your grandmother had breast cancer, you probably have breast cancer. But I say, let's check it out.
Yes, yes,
you know
yes.
check me out
Mhm.
before assuming, and then research my history and me,
Right.
and then and look at, if I am taking any medications, look at what I'm taking,
Yeah.
and help me out, because otherwise, what's the use of a doctor if it's just to prescribe medication? Chat GPT can do that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And going back like with my disease that I have, no one could tell me where it came from. Like my parents, passed away when I was in my 30s, and
Hmm.
I couldn't hey, I
Ask. Yeah.
couldn't
Yeah.
really ask them like, okay, was this part? And since my parents were baby boomers and I'm a Gen X. Like,
Uh-huh.
oh no, my parents actually were traditionalists, so they were born in the 1920s. They didn't say this is what happened to you when you were born and these things were going on, and they didn't share that information with me. So I'm saying this because when I got diagnosed, I went to several doctors. They couldn't tell me where it came from.
Okay.
I could have been born with it. I could,
Mhm.
I could have got it from anything. I don't know. However, as time evolves and things get better with technology, with research, I went back to, I had gone to an oncologist,
Mhm.
and I went back to the oncologist and they said, people who have your condition, they found that people who have your condition, most of them are from a certain region of the world.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, what? And I was the same way. I was like, oh. And I wrote it down and I looked it up and it said that. So some things can be genetic.
That's
But
right.
if you, like I said, with more research, then people are finding out. So that's another reason why you should be an advocate for yourself and don't just go by what somebody told you 20 years ago. You can bring it back up
Yeah.
and say, well, how can I find out? And maybe Chat GPT or some AI can tell you
Mhm.
more, but definitely talk with your doctor because what you learned 20 years ago, it could be new things going on. I watched Dr. Pimple Popper. I just put a disclaimer out there. I like Dr. Pimple Popper, and she talks about this. Like people will say, I want to take, medicine to get rid of whatever skin condition they have. And they say, well, that medicine said it caused cancer. And she might say, well, yes, but then they have more improved medication now that doesn't have that same risk or reduces the risk. So again, being able to talk to our doctors. And in addition to that, I want to say if you're on maintenance medication or
Mhm.
for a long period of time, you might want to find out like what are the effects over time, like being on this long term, like what are those effects to our body? Because you might not see it externally, like with our hair and skin. It could be
Mhm.
something that's internal too.
Right. The one thing I wanted to mention, because there are a lot of people on medications and things, but
Mhm.
a lot of people that are putting these chemicals in their body, chemicals in their hair, it also causes cancer. It,
Right, right.
it's
Yeah.
also, and so there's a way that you can test your own hair, to find
Mm.
out what type of hair you have and what type of products is great for your hair. Some people's hair is real porous,
Mhm.
and the water just fills it up and it'll sink in a little cup. And some
Mhm.
people have as not so I forgot what they call it, non-porous. It's something else, but
Uh-huh.
it just floats. on top of water. So some people's hair love gel and water, some people's hair love cream. And
Mm,
um, natural hair doesn't mean it's stronger hair. You still have to protect it. You still
mm,
have to yes, you still have to clean it. You still have to, protect those styles because the curl pattern is, prevalent and so tight. Our hair is basically able to just fall out if we
mm.
don't take care of it.
Right.
So knowing what products, my daughter had taught me that. We went through a series of products before I found a product that worked for mine. What
Mhm.
worked for her hair, I started out with, uh,
Right.
because I had gotten a relaxer. It was COVID, and
Mhm.
in March of 2020, I you couldn't go get a relaxer. I said, well, my mother and I used to put my relaxer in. And so I had forgot. I had based my scalp with oil. And
Uh-huh.
so when I put in that lye, it bubbled. And so I had chemical damage. And so
Uh-huh.
my daughter put together some cream and some other things, and she treated my hair for 5 weeks. I never had any hair loss or pockets or anything, but it took 5 weeks for the scalp, to heal and come back to
Mhm.
normal. And so that's when I said, I can't do it anymore. And every time I think about getting a relaxer, my hair starts burning. My scalp,
Right.
literally.
Right.
When I say
Right.
I'm going to call Miss Rayford, my scalp starts burning. And so I was forced to go natural, and I'm glad I did. But you have to take care of the hair. You can't just lay on it. You can't just let it mat. You have to take care of it. You can't just comb through it and stuff. This hair is delicate. But
Mhm.
it will last a long time and be very strong for you if you
Right.
take care of it. If you have good hair health. So,
Right. So if we notice, and this is just something that I'm interpreting based on what you're saying. So like if we notice a change in our hair,
mhm,
then doing those things like, yeah, to see if it how porous it is, or
mhm.
low porosity is things what
That's it.
say,
Porosity.
yes.
Thank you.
If we notice those things, that we need to make adjustments on our hair care, what
Mhm.
we're putting in it, what we're eating too,
Uh-huh.
as well, affects our skin and hair. So making
Yeah.
sure that we stay hydrated,
Right.
and
I
doing
did a presentation on transitioning to natural hair, and
okay.
the hair types and stuff. Well, you know what? I can just send you the videos. You could take a look at it, and maybe you can share it
Okay, I
or
appreciate
yeah, because it takes you through the different hair types. There's C and A and all these different hair types and the hair textures, and certain hair types require certain types of maintenance products,
that.
certain
Right.
types of shampoos. Everybody can't have a stripping shampoo.
Mhm.
We certainly can't use it all the time. Sometimes if we have a lot of gook in our hair,
Mhm.
that's a
Mhm.
good time for that rice water shampoo or something like that.
Okay.
But for the most part, you got to take care of the hair, and,
Right.
and it will last a long time,
Mhm.
so.
Mhm. Yes. Yes. I remember something that came to me real quick, like, when I used to use, get my hair processed, and they would say, your hair really holds the curl when it's real dirty. Remember,
It
when your
does.
hair is dirty,
It
you said it
did.
used to hold the curl,
I
and
I never liked my hair right after it was relaxed, but by the time it
Mhm.
was ready to get washed again, it was perfect.
Right. So we have a question in the chat.
Oh,
Yay. We have a question that says, what about collagen supplements? And I'm glad you asked that question too, Terry, because I use collagen supplements. So
uh-huh.
how would that affect our skin or
Collagen
hair?
helps with your elasticity. And if you can
Mhm.
put it in your mouth and on your body, because collagen firms up your skin, basically, but it also helps with elasticity. And so it will do the same thing. But you must make sure that you are maintaining healthy hair. You can't just put stuff on stuff on stuff on top of your hair and
Mhm.
expect all of it to work. Have a routine, have a line of maintenance products. If you need more elasticity and in your hair, concentrate on the products that's going to do that. If you mix collagen with other products that might be a stripping factor or something, it's not going to work. So you got to make sure that whatever routine you're into and whatever effects you're going for, healthy, elasticity, moisturize, you stick with those products that will do that for your hair.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing on your skin. When you're dealing with collagen will nicely firm up. It'll make your skin so. I'm over here rubbing my arm because I use collagen, and it has
We get
really
the
helped me.
effect. We understand. We get the effect.
But don't go for everything.
Hmm.
Decide what it is you're working on right now, and stick with it. And
Yeah,
stick
and
with it.
I think that's what we get caught up with. What wanting to see immediate effects,
Hmm.
and then also like buying everything we get. We see the advertisement and it's like get this, get this, get this,
Yeah.
and then we are buying all these things that we're really not. We really may not need them, or we have to, again, do our due diligence and be able to advocate for ourselves, talk to our doctors, do our own research, so we can be able to have that healthy skin
And be patient.
and be patient. Yes,
Be
patience
patient, because you
is
got to realize it took a minute for you to do the damage to yourself, and unless it's under medication. But it
right.
took a minute for your body to get damaged, or your hair to get damaged. It's going to take a minute for it to heal. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? When you catch a cold, it ain't gone the next day. It takes a
Right.
minute to get out of your system. It's the same thing
Exactly.
with healing your hair.
Exactly. So we have about 4 minutes left, Stephanie,
Okay.
and I'm so glad you were able to stay on
Thank you for
this
inviting
time.
me.
Oh yeah, when you started talking to me, a few months back about it, I was like, we really need to have this information shared. Um, oh, so we have another question here. It says,
Okay.
does it really matter how much water you drink?
Oh yeah, there's a recommended amount. Our bodies are all water, and especially not all, but mostly water. So when you take a look at this weather that we've been having, you know the your body temperature, the heat escapes through your scalp. Number one, it's evaporating, out the top of your head, and if you don't replace it, your organs are not getting the nutrients. Now if your organs aren't getting the nutrients and getting the water replaced, then your hair isn't either. And your hair is your scalp is an extension of your skin. And so we need to make sure we stay hydrated, so our organs can stay hydrated, so that they can work, so your nerves and your vessels, can do what they're supposed to do, so the skin layers, can be nicely protected and hydrated, so it can produce the oil in the sebaceous gland, so it can produce the follicle growing substance. Yes, I think in a period of a day, what is the recommended amount? Is it 64, 34, 32 ounces, 40,
Oh no,
64
I think
ounces?
it's more like 64.
Yeah, I think it's 64.
At
Yeah.
least, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because somebody bought my mother one of these little jugs. It said 32 ounces. They said you have to fill this up twice a day.
Hmm.
But I'm a water drinker. I drink water all the time. And I have to admit that, sometimes I'm working in places where it's hot and I'll drink Gatorade, or Pedialyte, whatever I can do to, replenish those electrolytes. So I drink a lot of water.
Okay. One thing that came to mind, and I know we do not have um, time to go into this subject, maybe we can come back, is menopause and our skin and hair and how
Mhm.
that affects it too. But we only have 2 minutes. I want to address, um, oh, so I guess to got her question because she asked, can that include other beverages or water? But I
Can
think
what other clue? Because somebody asked me, can they drink a Mountain Dew? Sugar. Okay, so you're trying to stay away from as much sugar as as possible. Gatorade has salt and stuff like that in it,
mhm,
but there is nothing healthier for you than water.
yeah.
It is the most healthy, is the most healthiest natural resource that we have. Our bodies are comprised mostly of water, so when we lose it, we want to replenish it. We want to
Yes.
replace it. Yeah.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So again, thank you so much, Stephanie. You gave a lot of great information today. I
Thank
mean,
you.
we could have gone on probably a whole another hour, with all this wonderful information. But
Yeah.
for those of you who were not able to catch it from the beginning, you can watch the replay on this YouTube channel as well as on Facebook and LinkedIn. And again, I welcome you all to come back and watch my prior episodes that are on my YouTube channel, Royalty Business Group. And next month on August the 13th, come back for a new episode of the Royal Nugget. And I look forward to seeing and hearing from everyone again. So thank you so much and have a great evening.
Bye. Thank you.